Well, hello. It's Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It's Happy Monday. This is Cindy Luby, and this is take two. My first video was a flop because I lost the sound within, I guess, the first 15 minutes. So I guess I had a little glitch in my power or something, so I had to reboot my whole system. I finished the video in silence, which was kind of fun, but not for the people that wanted to hear what I was doing. So I decided I would try to redo this video again just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to see this and hear it. So that would be a nice thing to do. So I am working on the Garden Birdhouses today. And I absolutely love this stamp set. I love the little birdhouses that you get. There's 3 little birds. You get a tree branch, these great sentiments. You get flowers, a pole, or you get a little string like that you can hang from the tree limb, so you could hang one of your birdhouses. You actually get some great sentiments here. Birthday wishes, welcome. You could do welcome back. You could do hello, so glad you're here, and hope each moment of your day is as special as you are. Great little stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick and easy card today with that. And I'm also going to be using the brick and mortar in 3D embossing folder. And that is a great folder to use. It's bricks, and I'm going to be doing some of using our blending brushes and doing some coloring on the background on there, so it actually looks like bricks instead of just white. But I like that 3D embossing folder because it does give a deep impression on your paper, and it's very easy to use your brushes on that to do that. So I'll be doing that in just a second. I'm actually going to be using our Stampin Write markers today. We use a lot of times our blending brushes, or actually our blends, which are alcohol-based. These are our Stampin Write markers, and they are great to use for coloring. So this is a very simple coloring today, so I decided that it's time for me to use my Stampin Write markers. They've been a tried and true in my craft room for so many years, and I just love the colors. They're great for filling in certain things that you want to do. So if you make a little mistake and you want to fill in a spot, just whip out your your Stampin' Write marker and then just fill it in, and you won't know the difference. Because, you know, when we stamp, sometimes they just don't come out perfect the way we want them to. So they are a great tool to have in your craft toolbox, and I would never want to let these go because I actually love to use them when I can. We're going to also be using our blending brushes, like I mentioned, to do some blending, not only for our bricks, but we're actually going to be doing some background blending on our birdhouses. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that with a little bit of masking. So that's what this little house is over here for that. So let's get this started. I'm going to go ahead and put this out of the way. Hopefully we won't have any glitches. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to be using Bermuda Bay as my card base. And I'm going to be using Polished Pink, Misty Moonlight, and our basic white cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and work on our bricks first. Let me put this over to the side. And I'm going to be doing some blending with that with our brush. I love our brushes. And I'm going to be using Crumb Cake for the background on that. I love the color of Crumb Cake. It's a great color to use. And, you know, I always use my piercing pad as my stamping pad. And I always just use a old piece of copy paper that I didn't use or whatever. So I fold it over and I use that as my base, as my testing area. So that way I'm not wasting paper. I'm recycling, doing my own recycling here. And it's a good way to use things as you're using your brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And what I like to do is use my 2 fingers here instead of holding the handle. I feel that I get a lot more pressure, and I can really see where the ink is going if I use with my 2 fingers, and it's not such a hard thing on my hands. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And with the raised areas on our embossing folder, it's going to take the ink a little bit better with that. So it'll make it a little darker. And that's the look I want, because bricks are not perfect. They have different textures to them, and they're never even. So that's what we're going to try to make our background look like, is some used bricks. So I'm just going to keep blending the color over and over on this until I get the look that I want. And I like the fact that some of those raised areas with our 3D embossing folder is taking that ink, so it's making it a little bit darker, and that's what I want. Now the key with this is that you definitely want to make sure that your edges are inked very well, because that's really what's going to show up on your card, is the areas, because I'm actually going to put a piece in the middle here, so it'll cover up that area. So that's really what I'm working towards, is making sure that my outer areas are covered pretty good, and that's the look I want. See, I like how that look is a little darker than this look on the top here. So we're going to go ahead and get this started, and we're going to get that. I think that's just looking really good, because remember, I don't have to worry about too much in the area, because I'm going to be covering that up with my layers. So as long as I have that, and I always do a little test. I kind of put my pieces in there, kind of look and see what that looks like, and I like that. I'm going to make it a little bit darker on this side, just so it shows up a little bit better. And that's what I like about our blending brushes. You can make it as dark or as light as you want. All right. Every time I'm done with my inks, I make sure that they're closed, because I have this bad habit of going to a color that I really didn't want, but I left it open, and then I wind up messing up my card. So little tip for me is to always close that up when you're done with it. So this is what's going to be going on this layer here, and that will be my background. All right, let's see, I'm going to do a little bit more shading there. All right. And you always have a little bit of ink on there, so that's what I do, is I make sure it's all rubbed off. Okay, so now we're going to be starting to work on our birdhouses, and I cut layers on this. So this will be nice that it'll be more of a focus, and I just didn't want to put it white on there. I wanted to put a little bit of color behind it. As you know, hey, we've got lots and lots of pretty colors to work with, so can't waste those colors. Now on my birdhouse, as that's what I'm going to use my focal point. And then we have these leaves here, this branch with the leaves, a tree branch. So I'm going to make sure that I put that on the top. So when I'm kind of designing, I decide what I want to do in the middle, and then what kind of room do I need to leave to put my leaves, my branch down. So looks like I've got a tree branch down there that'll be giving it a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my birdhouse in Early Espresso. That's a darker color, and that's what I like. So I kind of want to gauge where I want to put that. I always have my white piece of paper here, so I always do a test when I'm doing things to make sure that I've got good coverage for my birdhouse. And I'm going to go ahead and put this kind of right in the middle here and stamp that. And then we actually have a pole that you can do, like I mentioned, or you could do hanging from the tree, but I'm going to have this using the pole. And I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And it has a little area that you actually can color too, which is nice. Or you can leave it white, but I'm going to add a little bit of color to that. So I've got that going. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and before I start doing all my coloring on my birdhouse, I'm going to go ahead and add some flowers. Like I mentioned, we've got a couple of different flowers that we can work with. We have a bunch, that's a bunch here of flowers, and then we have a single flower. So we're going to work with both of those. And I'm going to take my birdhouse off. I'm going to use my smaller block. The key with using our blocks is a lot of times you want the stamp to fit the block, so then you don't get all that ink around it. But remember, when you're doing putting ink on these, you just want to tap on it. You don't want to press really hard, because our ink pads are pretty juicy. Now, what I wanted to do on this one is I wanted to use a lighter color, because I'm going to actually add some color to the tips of these flowers with my Stampin' Write markers. So I wanted to use Sierra Sand. I think that's a great color to use. And like, I'll give you an idea of what it looks like in relationship to the Early Espresso. It's a much lighter color. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in at the bottom. And I'm going to put some flowers in here. And I remember I've got 2 different flowers. So I'm going to go. Use my other flower. I'm going to make, I wonder if I just lost it again. I wonder if I just lost my audio again. No, it's still going. We have a little blink sometimes, so I'm not really sure what's going on with my camera. So I want to make sure that you're being able to hear all that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, put this up, and I'm going to put this one a little bit lower. So I have my flowers at different heights, which I think that's more realistic of what your garden looks like, right? All right, so I've got my flowers done. And then I'm going to put a little color on the tops. And then I actually have a little bit of grass that I can do. And there's a little sprig of grass in here, I believe. Oh, I think I already have that one out. It's right here. And I'm going to put that on the block later. And I'm going to be filling that bottom in with a little bit of grass, give it a little bit more dimension. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and fill in this. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of my coloring here. But before that I do that, I'm going to do one more thing. I almost forgot to do my tree top. So I want to go ahead and stamp that so I can go ahead and do all my coloring at the same time. I'm going to do a test on that. Okay. And what I want to do, like I said, is I want to bring that down so the tree branch is coming down a little bit around my birdhouse. Ooh, isn't that pretty? And then I'm just going to use the tip of this for just a little bit more so that I'll be able to fill that in. I think I will do this so it kind of comes down a little bit on the side. Ooh, isn't that pretty? But you know, what's nice is that you can make it anything you want. So we've got that done. So now I think it's time for some coloring. So on this, I decided, because I used Bermuda Bay as my card base, that I wanted to fill in my birdhouse sides with that. So that's going to be the base of my card. And what's nice about our Stampin' Write markers is there's 2 ends to it. We have the brush end that has more of a fill in, and then we have like almost a writing end. So you could actually write if you wanted to, and you can do that, or you can fill in a very small area. So I'll be using the brush in, and I'm just going to be lightly coloring this in. And what's nice about this is you can make this as light as dark as you want when you're coming in. Just don't put a lot of pressure on it if you want a light color. And what I'll show you is that the more you put down, the darker the color will be. So what I want to do here is I want to make this base here a little bit darker. So I'm going to fill it in the first time and see how it's kind of light color. Kind of get an idea of that. It's kind of light. And the more color I put on there, the darker it gets. So it'll actually be darker than my sides of my house. So see how that is a darker color? And then I'm just going to fill this in lightly here at the top. And I'm going to, so that will be it of my Bermuda Bay. Now I have 2 colors of pink. I decided, you know, this is my birdhouse and I'm going to make it as colorful as I want. So I've decided that I'm going to make my roof color, I'm going to make that the polished pink. Just fill that in just very lightly. That's what's nice about this is you don't have to press very much. You can actually refill our Stampin' Write markers too with our refill inks. You just take the nib out and then put some drops of ink in it, and it's already ready to be reused again. So you don't have to buy any new ones. You can just reuse what you have. So you want to make sure that you keep those tips in good shape. So don't do a lot of pressure on there. And then we're going to go ahead and do our Magenta Madness. And I'm going to make the underside of my birdhouse a little bit darker because I want it to pop. Kind of give it a little bit more dimension there. And anytime that you go back, you know, you might see a little spot that you missed. Just go back and fill that in. And I'm going to do the same thing with my eave here, I'm going to make that a little bit darker so it pops more. And then I'm going to make my door the same thing as my roof, and that's going to be in my polished pink. Isn't that pretty? I just love that. Hey, I want my birdhouse to be noticed. What can I say? All right, and now I'm going to use my Sierra sand, and I'm just going to fill in the rest of my pole just to give it a little bit more dimension. I don't want it to be white. And then on my, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the color. And on our flowers, you can see they're just little marks. So they're really easy to fill in with color. So I'm just going to use, this is Highland Heather, and I'm just going to use that just to kind of mimic what I see here and fill in those colors. I'm going to use my polished pink, the same thing. I'm just kind of using some of the colors I've already used. And you don't have to be real, you don't have to stay within the lines. You're just wanting to give that daub of color just to fill in your garden. This is my Bermuda Bay. And then I'm also going to be using a Bumblebee, which is a color that I'm going to be introducing with my ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and finish in my other flowers with that just to give it a little pop of yellow. All right. And then I'm going to be using a Granny Green Apple for all of my leaves. And I'm going to do filling in some of my color with my leaves here on my flowers, just because I wanted to give it a little bit of difference in color. And then I'm going to be using Pear Pizzazz for my grass because I didn't want my leaves and my grass to be the same color. So I'm just kind of filling this in a little bit, adding a little bit more dimension, kind of filling in what I might have missed. So we get all of our colors filled in. Now on the top here, like I said, I'm going to fill in all of these leaves here with Granny Green Apple. And I think that will work. Just giving it a little bit of dimension. Because, you know, we don't want to have white leaves. That wouldn't work for me. I love all of our colors that we have with Stampin' Up. They're so pretty and they go well together. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You don't really have to stay within the lines. You're just doing a little bit of daubing just to fill all of this in so there's some color on your leaves. Now, I didn't like the way my branches looked one dimension. When you go out and look at a tree, they kind of like have different textures to them. So I decided I wanted to add a little bit to that. So you can see what I mean. It's just kind of flat. So I'm taking my Early Espresso and I'm taking the pen marker and I'm going to be tracing all the way through. Doesn't have to be a straight line, just kind of giving some dabs here and there. So this actually looks a little bit different because it's, you know, it is a tree branch and they're not all uniform like I just mentioned. So I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit to that, just adding to the branches, adding a little bit more green that I might have missed on a couple of things that I decided I want to add to. So it kind of gives you an idea of that. And I think that adds a lot to the tree branch. Just adds a little bit more texture to that instead of being flat and one-dimensional. All right, now I mentioned I was going to go back with my Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to go ahead and use my grass, and I'm going to fill it in down the bottom, and you'll see the difference it makes with that just being the way it is. And then if you start adding your grass with just the color, doesn't have to be perfect. You're just adding it in here and there just to kind of see. You can stamp on and then stamp off again to give you different looks. You can do it higher and lower because you know how grass is. It's, you know, like my grass, it's never the same height. Some seem to grow higher than the others sometimes. And see what a difference that makes in adding that greenery at the bottom. So now you see that there's some grass down there. I think that's great. Again, I just love our colors. All right. So it looks like I've got everything colored here. Now, the one thing I do want to do, and I have my little birds here, and I stamped them all, is that I colored this in with Bumblebee. And then all you have to do is you just take your snips, and you just want to fussy cut this. Not one of my favorite tasks to do, but when you want something, you got to sometimes fussy cut it because this does not have a die that goes with it, but nothing wrong with using my snips and doing some fussy cutting. Now you'll see that there's a little bit of white, and I'll show you how we can kind of cover that up with my scissors can't get into every nook and cranny, but we're going to cover that up a little bit. So it just doesn't take very long, and before you know it, your bird is snipped out. And if you have a little bit of white there, you can kind of get it with the ends of your scissors. And if not, I'll show you my little tip there of how we can cover that up a little bit. And I'll use my Sierra Sand. And I'm going to take my, and I'm just going to cover up any of those white areas to give it a little shading. Now, if you really want to cover up some of the white areas, you actually can get your brush end of like your early espresso, which we did the outline with, and you can just follow the outline of the bird, and that will cover up any white area that might be showing from your cutting. And that's a nice little tip to do too, so then you don't see any of that as you're laying the bird down. So you can just fill in any white that you might see, covering that area, and before you know it, your bird is done. Fussy cutting done. How is that? All right, now I mentioned I wanted to do some masking. So when you do that, I just used a Post-it note, and I made sure I kept the sticky end, and then I just stamped this. And the one thing you want to make sure is that you pretty much fussy cut it towards the edges so you won't have any shadowing, because if this doesn't kind of match what you've stamped, you will get a shadow around the birdhouse, and then it won't look as good. So you want to just make sure that you've cut it kind of almost perfect, or if not, just even a little bit smaller around the edges. So then that way, when you're masking, you won't have that shadow there. Now I'm going to use Balmy Blue as my shadowing because I wanted to show some sky. I thought the sky would be really something that I wanted to do. So I'm going to use my Balmy Blue ink, and I'm going to be using my brush again. And I'm going to be doing some just light, I don't want this real dark, because if you made it really dark at the top, it almost looks like it's going to be a thunderstorm. But I wanted to add some dimension to this, so I wanted to show that there's some sky behind there. So I normally just do some tapping with that, and then I start adding the color to my scene here. So I want to make sure that I'm adding the color where I want it, and if do it light first to start with, and then you can always go back and add more. I don't do it right on there when I tap. I always tap off first just to get a little bit of that extra ink off of there, and then just do it very lightly, and you'll see that you're adding that color to your scene. And I just kind of turn it around so I can kind of see what I'm doing and making sure I'm getting my edges and everything. And then as you're getting down below here, it doesn't matter that you're actually coloring over this because you've already put some color on here, so you really don't see the difference in that. But you do see the white, so you want to make sure that you've at least added a little hint of color down at the bottom. It doesn't have to be very dark, just something light. So as you can see, it's kind of graduating. This is the darker sky here, then you get a little bit lighter, and then very light at the bottom. So that's the key to that, is just, it's all by your eye and what you like to do, and then what the look is that you're going for. Just making sure that you kind of covered up some of that white color. But I wanted my top of mine just to be a little bit darker. And you can see I haven't been using that much ink on there. Just wanted to do a little bit. Then you can kind of take off your mask and see where you're at. And then you can kind of see what that looks like. See how you've got a little bit of blue in there all the way down, so you're not really seeing a lot of white. You can put your mask back on if you want, and then just do a little bit more shading just to make sure you've done it all. And that's really what masking is all about. It's all by what is the look. Do you want it light? Do you want it dark? But I love that way that you can kind of play with your colors. All right, well, I think it's time to start putting our card together on that. I need to find my little bird that I just fussy cut. I don't know if he flew away or what, but you know me, you know how that goes when I'm started to do some creating. I always seem to put my bird somewhere and then I can't find it, but he'll show up. I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to go ahead and layer these pieces that I put together. So I'm going to put this on my Misty Moonlight. I kind of do one piece at a time so I can kind of see where I'm layering at. And then I'm putting this on my Polished Pink. I just love these colors together. And I think the blue really made my sky kind of my scene pop a little bit more. So that's what I liked about this. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that on my bricks. Put that down. And then put my bricks on my card. All right. So there is the front of my card. Now you can put a sentiment on there if you wanted, but I decided that I'm going to add a little bling to that when I'm done. So I didn't want to put a sentiment on the front of my card. So that's just a personal preference. I decided I would go ahead and put a sentiment on the inside. My bird still hasn't flown. I don't think he's going to fly back. I think I lost him. I'll have to do another one. Oh, well. So I'm going to go ahead and use Hope Each Moment of Your Day as Special as You Are. So I'm going to go ahead and get that sentiment out. And I'm going to put that on my block. And I'm going to do that in... I think I will do that in Magenta Madness, since I did that as my roof of my birdhouse. I love my birdhouses. I don't have these pretty colors in my backyard, but I do have some birdhouses, and I love watching my birds every day. It's so calming to me to watch them, and they're very entertaining when they start squabbling with each other, and I get a little laugh out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put a birdhouse on the side here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my early espresso out again. And I'm going to go ahead and get my birdhouse back. Put it down here somewhere. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and re-stamp that with the pole. And I think that will work out great. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I'm going to go ahead and put a pole down there like I did before on the front. And go ahead and put that in. All right. And then I decided I'm going to go ahead and stamp some of the flowers, and I'm going to go ahead and get my pear pizzazz. Instead of doing that and coloring them in, I'm going to do a little bit different, and I'm going to go ahead and put that as pear pizzazz. I'm going to put that there, and I can still color in a little of my flower tops just to add a little color there. I'm not going to fill in my birdhouse. I just want him to stay the way he is. But this way, you've got a little bit of pop of color on the inside of your card. And I think that's always a way. I don't like my cards to be naked, what I call naked inside. I don't ever do that. I always add a little bit of a seam to them because I think that's important. Shows a little bit of uniformity and a little bit of something inside your card. So I can go ahead and do this, put this down. And that's in my Bermuda Bay. So I think that turned out really good. And the one thing I didn't do, and I still want to, and I still can do that because that's why I didn't glue it down. I just used my tape runner because a lot of times it'll pop right up until I decide that I want it to be completed. And then I can always go back and use my glue. But I wanted to go ahead and tie a ribbon around my piece. And this is a bumblebee, and it's a gingham ribbon. And because I wanted to add a little bit of something to my card. So I just want to go ahead and put that around, tie a bow. I don't know how you are with tying bows, but sometimes I'm like, oh, Lordy, my fat fingers. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but I manage. Just tying your bow. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as something to be on the card. But I like that little look. I wanted to do something that would be off to the side here. So I've got that done, and just keep playing with it until you get the look that you want. I think that's really cute. You can fluff it up a little bit. Go ahead and put that back down on your card. I think that's really cute. I'm going to move that down just a tad. There we go. Just that little piece just adds a little something to your card. You can trim that off. Trim this off here. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my, these are blue adhesive back gems. I love these gems. I think they're so pretty. And you can go ahead, and that's what I like to use as an accent. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a few of these and put these down. And they're great for covering up if you do a little bit of a mistake here and there. You never know what you need to cover up. But I think it just adds a little bit of eye candy to your card. And I think that's just a great way to polish it off. I think that looks great. So there is your card for today. This was the Garden Birdhouses. I just love this card. I think it is really cute. If you want to see more of the examples that I've done, I do a blog every week at cindyscardsandmore.com. Go over there and take a look at that. And I always do post it on my page here. You can take a look at that also. But that's once a week. Normally on Mondays, I will post a new blog. I've just posted my cards from last week, and I always give you other samples. But just because I had to redo this card today, I'm going to still find that bird. I don't know what happened to him, but I'm going to go ahead and cut out another one really quick. He just disappeared on me. Who knows? But I wanted to put a bird next to my little birdhouse here. And so he's got something to go on. And I think what I can do is I already had put him on another one of my cards. So I'm going to take him off, put him on this one. There he is. And even on that one, I did a little wink of Stella. See how he has a little bit of glitter to him? So that's a cute one to do. But we have this one, and that's in Bermuda Bay. This is the one I did a little earlier before I had my technical difficulties. But I decided, I'm not going to let that get me down. I'm going to do another one. And then this was the third card that I did, and I did this in Highland Heather and Fresh Freesia with the two main colors here. And I did Just Jade as my card base. But I just think these are great cards. They're really cute, and you can do lots of fun things with this. And if you have a friend that loves garden, they would love to get a card like this from you. So stay tuned, because every Monday I do a video at 2 o'clock. They're normally quick and easy cards that you can do. This one was a little bit more involved today, but I still come up with some really easy cards for you to make. And this would be even great for someone that's just starting. All you have to do is just cut your layers and then do a little bit of cutting something out with your embossing folder and embossing that. But other than that, this is a very easy card to make. So I look forward to seeing you on next Monday at 2 o'clock, where I'll do my quick and easy cards. And I hope everybody has a great day. Bye now.